They say Switzerland is perfect, but if you want to find the heart of that perfection, you have to look between the lines, or rather, between the lakes. Welcome to Interlaken. The name isn't just a label, it's a literal description. Latin interlacus, between lakes. Nestled on a flat alluvial plain called the Beau-Rivage, this town separates the deep blue waters of Lake Thun to the west, and the striking turquoise of Lake Brienz to the east. For centuries, this place was just a quiet monastic settlement. But today, it's the adrenaline capital of Europe. It's the gateway to the giants, the Eiger, the Munch, and the Jungfrau. Whether you're here to jump out of a plane or just stare at a glacier with a hot chocolate in hand, Interlaken feels unreal. Like a movie set built just for you. So, whether you are planning a trip or you just want a calm escape into Alpine air and blue water, stay with us. This is Interlaken, between the lakes, at the edge of some of the most dramatic scenery in Europe, and we are going to explore it one peaceful step at a time. So, here is the plan. We're starting right here at the eastern edge on the shores of Lake Brienz. The water here is this incredible milky turquoise. It's glacial runoff, literally rock flour, ground down by the ice high above. And just like the water flows from here, through the town, and eventually into Lake Thun on the other side. That is exactly what we are going to do. We're going to walk the spine of Interlaken. As we walk toward the centre, you have to understand that this place wasn't always the bustling hub you see today. For a long time, this was quiet, spiritual, even. In the Middle Ages, Interlaken was defined by an Augustinian monastery. It was a place of silence and prayer, isolated by the mountains. But the 19th century changed everything. The artists arrived, painters, writers like Goethe and Lord Byron, and they told the world about this valley. Then came the trains. Suddenly, Interlaken wasn't just a pass-through, it became a destination. It became the heart of the grand tour for wealthy Victorians who wanted to breathe fresh mountain air. That DNA is still here. As we walk these streets, you'll notice something interesting. This doesn't feel like a tiny, isolated Swiss village. It feels worldly. It's a resort town in the truest sense. You hear every language under the sun here. It's a base camp for the world. Whatever you're looking for, whether it's high culture, history, or just that rush of adrenaline, it all pivots around this town. It is the anchor. So, stick with us. We're going to follow this river, check out the town centre, and see how this place balances its history with a very modern, very adventurous spirit. Let's keep moving. You might be wondering, how does a town of this size exist in a country so vertical? The answer is beneath our feet. We are walking on the Beaudelaye. It's a geological accident, a flat alluvial plain created by the rivers over thousands of years. It's the only reason you can have a promenade this wide in the middle of the Alps. And because it's the only flat land around, it became the natural funnel. The gateway, if you want to go up to the glaciers, to the cliffs, to the famous villages like Grindelwald or Wengen. You have to come through here first. Interlaken isn't just a destination, it's a base camp, a very luxurious base camp. Walking these streets, you feel a strange, cool contrast. On one hand, you have the classic Grand Tour energy. You can feel the ghosts of the Victorian era here. The wealthy elites who came for the milk cures and fresh air in the 1800s. That history left behind a culture of hospitality that is incredibly polished. Everything runs on time. The chocolate is perfect. The watches are expensive. But then you have the other side, the messy, loud, exciting side. Over the last few decades, this place quietly transformed into the adrenaline capital of Europe. Those mountains up there, people aren't just looking at them anymore. They are jumping off them. They are rafting down the glacial water we are walking beside. It creates this unique electricity in the air. You'll be sitting at a cafe, sipping an espresso, and right above your head, 20 paragliders are spiralling down to land in the park. It's a town where high-end luxury meets high-stakes adventure. It shouldn't work, but it does. Interlaken is not a big place in terms of population. It is a small town, roughly around 6,000 residents in recent estimates, but it is famous far beyond its size because it sits at a natural junction of water routes and valley routes. You feel that immediately as you walk. People arrive with different expectations, different budgets, different languages, and different plans. Yet most of them are here for the same core reason. They want to be close to Switzerland's mountain landscape without having to live deep inside it. They want the flexibility to go out into nature and come back to comfort in the same day. Switzerland Tourism describes Interlaken as an ideal starting point and highlights how strongly it is associated with outdoor and adventure experiences. When you walk through Interlaken today, it is easy to think of tourism as something that simply happened because the scenery is spectacular. But the town's rise as a tourist place was also shaped by timing and infrastructure. Sources that summarize the town's development describe how its reputation as an international resort began around 1800, boosted by landscape art and by events that drew visitors into the valley. Then travel became easier. Steamship routes on Lake Thun opened in 1835 and on Lake Brienz in 1839, which meant the lakes were not just scenery, but practical transport corridors. Later, in the 19th century, railway links connected the corridor between the lakes and tied Interlaken more firmly into the national network, which made it simple for visitors to arrive, stay, and move on. That combination of beautiful landscape and improving access is a big part of why Interlaken became one of Switzerland's oldest and most frequented summer tourist resorts. Now, take a look at this water. Really look at it. It's not just blue, it's something else. Neon milky. It almost looks artificial. This is the river Aare. And that colour tells you exactly where it came from. It flows straight down from the Oberaar glacier, high up in the Bernese Alps. The ice grinds the mountain rock into a fine dust called glacial flour. That dust stays suspended in the water, catching the sunlight and turning the river this incredible. Opaque turquoise. It is literally liquid mountain. Today, you see people floating down it, swimming in the summer, if they're brave enough to handle the cold, or rafting through the rapids. But historically, this river was the highway. It connects everything. It flows from Lake Brienz behind us, cuts right through the town, and feeds into Lake Thun ahead of us. And speaking of highways, you can't talk about these waters without talking about the legends that sail them. Since the 1800s, this has been the romantic way to arrive. On Lake Brienz, you have the Lochberg, a steamer from 1914, and over on Lake Thun, Therese the Blumless Alp. These aren't just boats, they are time machines. They are paddle steamers from the Belle Epoque, still running on steam, still churning through the water, exactly like they did when kings and queens visited over a century ago. What I love about these boats is how well they match the pace of this region. The lakes are wide and calm. The mountains make everything feel slower, and a paddle steamer is not about rushing. It is about motion you can hear and feel, and a kind of travel that makes you look around rather than look at the time. Even if you never step on board, just seeing them glide across the water adds to the atmosphere. It reminds you that the lakes are not only for looking at. They are working waterways with a long memory. There is something so satisfying about watching them. In a world of high-speed trains and instant everything, these boats force you to slow down. They remind you that the journey is supposed to be the point. If the river is the soul of this town, then the railway is definitely its spine. We've made it to Interlaken Ost, the East Station. And honestly, this isn't just a train station. It's a portal, you have to realise, before the mid-19th century. Getting here was an expedition. You took a carriage, you took a boat, you walked. It was slow. But when the rails finally punched through the valley, everything changed. The trains didn't just bring people to Interlaken, they opened up the entire Bernese Oberland to the rest of the world. This specific station is the critical junction. It's the handshake between the flatlands and the vertical world. On one track, you have the heavy, standard gauge trains arriving from Zurich, Bern, and even Berlin. They drop you off here at the end of the line. And right across the platform, you have the mountain specialists, the narrow gauge trains. These are the workhorses engineered to climb. From here, they split. One line heads up the valley to Grindelwald, the other to Lauterbrunnen. They hook into the cogwheel systems that can pull you up gradients that would stall a car. It also connects you to the east towards Lucerne on the famous Golden Pass line. It's considered one of the most beautiful train rides on the planet. And it all pivots right here. The railway democratized the Alps. It turned these mountains from terrifying barriers into destinations. It allowed the supplies to go up and the cheese to come down. Without this station, Interlaken would still be a quiet village between two lakes. Instead, it's the grand central station of the Alps. Leaving the station behind, we are crossing the Aare again. This time on the Beaurivage Bridge. Stop here for a second. This is one of the best spots to really see the power of this river. It's moving fast, carrying all that meltwater from the glaciers we talked about earlier. It's hypnotic. But we aren't crossing this bridge just for the view. We are crossing it to get to that. You see that station tucked into the trees? That is the Harderbahn. And if you think the trains we just saw were impressive, wait until you see this one. This isn't a normal train. It's a funicular. It opened way back in 1908. And it solves a very specific problem. How do you get to the top of a mountain when you don't have hours to hike? You build a track that goes virtually straight up. In just 10 minutes, this little red car pulls you up a 64% gradient to the harder coal, known as the top of Interlaken. It sits at 1322 metres. Up there is a viewing platform that hangs over the edge, giving you the kind of view that makes you feel like a bird. You see Lake Brienz on your left, Lake Thun on your right, and the big three, Eiger, Munch and Jungfrau, staring you right in the face. Therese also a bit of a legend up there. The locals talk about the Hardemanli, a face trapped in the rock. The story goes that a wicked monk was turned to stone for his bad deeds, condemned to look down on the town forever. So, if you go up, keep an eye on the cliffs. Someone might be watching you back. We aren't going up today, though. We have a lot more to see down here on the valley floor. We're going to follow the river path back toward the centre. It's a beautiful walk, and it leads us straight to the historic heart of the town. Right after the bridge, you can't miss this. This is the Grand Hotel Beau-Rivage. And if walls could talk, these ones would probably whisper in about 5 different languages. It opened its doors in 1874, and it is the definition of a Grand Dane. In the Victorian era, this was the place to be seen. Kings, queens, artists, they all stayed here. It was built during that golden age of travel, when coming to the Alps was a months-long affair, not a weekend trip. It stands there like a guardian of the river, a reminder of when travel was exclusively for the elite. It's elegant, it's old school, and it sets the tone for the rest of this street. But as we leave the 19th century behind and head deeper into the town centre, we are about to find something completely unexpected. We are in the middle of the Swiss Alps, right? So you expect chalets, maybe some cows, definitely a fondue pot. You probably don't expect this. Welcome to the Garden of Friendship. It's a full-scale Japanese garden right here in the shadow of the Alps. It's not a random decoration, it's actually a gift. Interlaken has a twin sister city in Japan called Otsu. They've been connected since 1978, and they built this sanctuary in 1995 to honour that bond. What's really cool is that the design isn't just generic, it's symbolic. The pond here represents the two lakes, Brienz and Thun. The little waterfalls and rocks represent the waterfalls and ravines of the Bernese Oberland. It's a miniature version of this landscape translated into Japanese philosophy. It's quiet, it's peaceful, and it's a perfect place to catch your breath before we hit the main strip. So we've seen the river, the steam trains, the grand hotels, and now a slice of Japan. But we are just getting started with the town centre. Just ahead is the most famous open space in Switzerland. Let's go to the Hohematte. Just a few steps away from the zen of the Japanese garden, the vibe shifts. We are walking past the walls of the Schloss, the castle area, and this is where the story of Interlaken actually begins. For centuries after the Reformation, Catholic Mass was essentially banned here. But then, in the 1800s, the tourists arrived. Wealthy visitors from France, Austria, and Italy started flooding in, and they wanted a place to pray. The town realized if we want their money, we need to welcome their faith. So, this church was built, completed in 1908, specifically to accommodate the visitors. It's gorgeous, designed in that neo-Gothic style that was trendy at the turn of the century. This is the Schlosskirche, the Reformed church. But long before it was a church for the town, this was an Augustinian monastery. Founded way back in the 1100s, this was the power centre. The monks who lived here owned most of the land were walking on. They were the ones who built the first bridges and controlled the river. But history in Switzerland can be sharp. In 1528, the Reformation hit. The monks were kicked out, the state took over, and this building became a granary and a hospital. Today, it's the main Protestant church. It's simple, understated, and carries that heavy weight of medieval history. So when you look at these two churches side by side, you're looking at the two pillars of Interlaken, the ancient monastic roots on one side, and the modern, welcoming spirit of tourism on the other. They stand here like gatekeepers, because just past them, the town opens up in a way that is rare for any city. The streets disappear, the buildings stop, and we are left with nothing but grass and a view that costs $1 million. Let's walk into the open. And here it is, the Hohematte. Now, if you've been to other cities, you expect a central park to be full of trees, fountains, maybe a statue or two. But this is just grass. It's a 35-acre meadow right in the middle of prime real estate. And that emptiness is exactly the point. In the mid-1800s, as the Grand Hotels started rising up, a group of visionary hoteliers got together. They realised that if people built on this land, the view of the Jungfrau would be blocked forever. So, in a move that was pretty radical for the time, they bought the land from the monastery and the farmers. Just to keep it empty, they bought the view, and today this meadow is the stage for Interlaken's daily show. Look up. This is their landing strip for paragliders. All day long, you see these human birds dropping out of the sky, circling down to land right here in the centre of town. It's colourful, it's chaotic, and it's completely unique to Interlaken. You can just come here, sit on a bench, and watch the Jungfrau change colours as the sun sets. It's the breathing room of the city. It reminds you that no matter how fancy the hotels get, the real star of the show is still that mountain range. But speaking of fancy, at the northern end of this park, there is one more building we need to see. It's the place where the Victorians went to socialise, gamble, and listen to music. Let's head to the Kursaal.
왜 내가 그려줄 때도 이렇게
At the north end of the park, you'll find the Kursaal. Now, you might see the word casino on the sign and think it's just about gambling. But historically, this place was the social heartbeat of the entire valley. It opened back in 1859, in the Victorian era, after a long day of hiking, or let's be honest, just drinking tea and looking at the mountains. This is where you came to be seen. It was the ballroom. The theatre, the concert hall, It was where the polite society of Europe mixed. But if you walk a little further into the gardens, you're going to find a statue that might confuse you. It's not a Swiss general. It's not a local politician. It's a man holding a movie camera. This is Yash Chopra, and if you are from India, you already know why he is here. But if you aren't, well, this man is the reason why millions of Indian tourists dream of Switzerland. He was a legendary Bollywood director who fell in love with these landscapes in the 1970s. He filmed movie after movie right here in Interlaken. He turned these Alps into a symbol of romance for an entire subcontinent. Before him, Indian movies usually went to Kashmir. After him, it was all about Interlaken. The town was so grateful for the tourism boom he created that they gave him the title Ambassador of Interlaken and built this statue. It's a permanent reminder that this town doesn't just belong to the Swiss. It belongs to the dreamers.
da mit Sebi, weil wir haben gewusst, die anderen sind abgesoffen. Ja.
Leaving the Bollywood dreams and the high society gardens behind, we're walking deeper into the town's engine room. This is the marketplace, the market square. And if the Hohematte is for the tourists, this little pocket feels like it belongs to the locals. It's not massive and it's not dripping with gold leaf. But this is where the real life happens. This is where you come to buy the cheese that actually smells like a farm, not the stuff wrapped in plastic at the airport. It's where you hear less English and more Swiss German. Therese, a different rhythm here. It's the chill we talked about. You grab a coffee, you sit on a bench, and you just watch the town function. It's a reminder that behind the paragliding companies and the luxury watches, there is still a functioning Swiss community here. People who live, work and shop right in the shadow of these mountains. But as we pass through this local hub, the architecture is about to change again. We are approaching the river once more, and across the water lies the oldest, most historic part of the settlement. We're crossing over to Unterseen.
Da sollte es nicht.
Leaving the market square, we reconnect with our constant companion, the river Aare. But down here, near Unterseen, the river feels different. It's not rushing quite as frantically as it was upstream. It's wider, calmer, almost like it knows its journey is ending. This is the stretch where the locals walk their dogs, where the swans float by, and where you can really see the water turning that deep, rich emerald colour. Following this path, we are being led straight to the other bookend of the town. We started at Interlaken East, and now, naturally, we are arriving at Interlaken West. This is Interlaken West Station, and don't let the name fool you. For most people living here, this is the main station. While the East Station is the gateway to the high mountains, the West Station is the gateway to the world. This is where the commuters arrive, this is where the town actually functions. It's a vital pulse point. The trains here connect you to the capital, Bern to Zurich, and even directly to Germany. If Interlaken Ost is for the adventure seekers heading up into the clouds, Interlaken West is for the travellers staying grounded, connecting to the cities and the lakes. And the coolest part, it's seamless. You can step off a high-speed train here, walk 50 metres and step right onto a boat. The station is literally fused with the harbour. It's that famous Swiss efficiency in action, steel rails meeting glacial water without missing a beat. And speaking of water, the river has done its job. It has guided us all the way through the town. Now, it's opening up into something much bigger. Let's go see the second giant of the valley. The best way to understand this place is to break it down by the elements: water, air, and earth. First, let's talk water. If you want the relaxed version, you get on a boat. We talked about the steamers earlier, but you need to actually do this. You can hop on the historic paddle steamers like the Blumlis Alp on Lake Thun or the Lochberg on Lake Brienz. They have full kitchens on board, so you can literally eat a 3-course lunch while floating past waterfalls and castles. But if you want the wild version, you go to the rivers. The Lütschine River offers some of the best whitewater rafting in the Alps. Grade 3 and 4 rapids straight from the glacial melt. Or, if you are really crazy, you go cannoning. That's where you put on a wetsuit and literally jump, slide, and rappel down the waterfalls inside the gorges. It is freezing, it is terrifying, and it is amazing for something in between. Just rent a kayak or a stand-up paddleboard at the Neuhaus or Bonnigen. The water is so clear you can see the rocks on the bottom 20 feet down. Next, we have the Aare. You might have noticed that half the population here seems to be hanging from a parachute. Interlaken is one of the world's capitals for paragliding. You take a van up to Beatenberg, run off a grassy slope, and suddenly you are floating. It is surprisingly chill. You are basically sitting in an armchair in the sky. But if you want the heavy stuff, there is skydiving. You can jump out of a plane or a helicopter over the Eiger. It is the ultimate bird's eye view, followed by a 200 km per h-hour freefall. Finally, the earth, or rather the rock from Interlaken Ost. The trains act like lifts to the roof of Europe. The big one is the Jungfraujoch. You take the train or the new Eiger Express cable car all the way up to 3,454 meters. It is a world of eternal ice with an ice palace and views of the Aletsch Glacier that will blow your mind. Just bring a jacket, seriously, it is winter up there, even in July. If you want thrills without the snow, you head to Grindelwald first. They have the cliff walk, a metal grate bridge bolted to the side of a vertical drop. Plus, they have ziplines, and these things called trotter bikes. Basically, off-road scooters. You can ride down the mountain. And of course, there is the Schilthorn. If you are a James Bond fan, you will recognise it as Peace Gloria from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It has a revolving restaurant and some of the best 360-degree views of the Eiger, Munch and Jungfrau skyline. And hey, if you don't want to spend money on tickets, just walk. There are hundreds of kilometres of hiking trails. You can hike the Harder Ridge, walk along the lake to Spies, or explore the Lauterbrunnen Valley with its 72 waterfalls. The point is, don't just stay in the hotel. Get out there. Once you leave the station, something interesting happens. You take 2 steps away from the tracks and the noise just vanishes. The announcements, the suitcase wheels, the traffic, it all fades out, and you enter this quiet green corridor. This stretch of the river leading out to Lake Thun is probably the most peaceful part of the entire walk. It feels less like a city promenade and more like a secret garden. The crowds thin out here. It's mostly just you, the water, and maybe a few locals reading on the benches. It's a decompression zone. After the adrenaline of the paragliders and the hustle of the town centre, this is where you catch your breath. The water here isn't rushing anymore. It's gliding. It's slow, deliberate, moving with this heavy, silent power toward the lake. There is a stillness here that is hard to describe. It's the kind of quiet that makes you lower your voice without realizing it. You aren't just walking to a destination anymore. You're just being. And honestly, in a town known for high-speed thrills, this slow, quiet walk might be the most underrated experience of them all. This is Lake Thun, and immediately you can feel that this lake has a completely different personality from where we started. If Lake Brienz, where we began, is the wild turquoise glacial child, then Lake Thun is the elegant, deep blue adult. It's significantly larger, stretching over 17 kilometers to the west. And the color is different because the glacial sediment that turns the water milky upstream has mostly settled by the time it gets here. What's left is this crystal clear, dark sapphire blue. It's also the sailor's lake. Because of the way the mountains funnel the air, there is a reliable thermal wind that kicks up here in the afternoons. It gives the whole place a Riviera vibe. It feels less like a mountain outpost and more like the Mediterranean of the Alps. We've walked the entire spine of the Beaudelis. We started at the turquoise waters of the east, followed the river through the history of the monastery, past the grand hotels, through the adrenaline of the centre. And now we've washed up here, on the calm shores of the west. Interlaken isn't just a pause between two lakes. It's the bridge between them. It's a place that has mastered the art of being two things at once. Wild and manicured, historic and modern, calm and absolutely crazy. And that is the walk, from the turquoise shores of Brienz through the history and the hustle, all the way to the deep blue of Thun. If you are still watching right now, seriously, thank you. I know the internet is noisy and there are a million things you could be doing. So I really appreciate you spending your time walking through this valley with us. It means a lot. If you enjoyed the vibe of this video, if you felt a bit of that Swiss calm, do me a favour and hit that like button. It helps the channel more than you know. And if you want to come along for the next adventure, whether it's another mountain, another city, or just another story, make sure you hit subscribe. We have a lot more world to cover. Until then, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.